Happy Friday. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We've got a Game 7 in the NBA's Western Conference Finals. We will break it down for you. Looks like it could be an epic showdown between OKC and San Antonio. We'll preview the game with Carlin Gay, who joins us courtesy of Sporting News at 12:12 Eastern. The game is being played tomorrow, so we'll try to get ahead of it today. Sam McQuillan will join us from Legal Sports Report, as always, and Justin Perry weighs in on the latest in Major League Baseball and everything else. That's just some of the things that we're following on today's show for you here as we get you ready for another big sports weekend. Let's get started with, it looks like, some finality here for Terry Rozier. 2 more indictments. The former NBA player has now a bribery and honest service wire against him. He's facing 4 federal charges. Looks like his career is over. On Thursday, federal prosecutors say that Rozier accepted $70,000 in bribes as part of a sports betting scheme tied to a 2023 game when he played for the Hornets, allegedly agreeing to leave a game against the Pelicans so gamblers could profit on his stats and his unders. Naturally, Rozier is denying all of these charges, but more allegations coming in against him. Meanwhile, the NBA has decided that the tanking has just simply gone too far. The Board of Governors is passing new anti-tanking rules that will include expanding the lottery from 14 to 16 teams and actually a relegation zone. How about that? Where the bottom 3 teams in the league with the worst records get penalized and have lessened chances for the #1 overall pick and some flattened odds. The Board of Governors passed 29-1. So here we go. No more tanking, at least if you're looking for that first pick or the most lottery ping pong balls moving forward. All right, as I mentioned, the San Antonio Spurs really did a good job last night. Game not really close. 118-91. Never really felt like SGA and company were into this one. In fact, he just had 15 points on 6 for 18 shooting, did SGA. Victor Wembanyama had 28 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, and now they'll head back to Oklahoma City for a decisive Game 7. Here is Mitch Johnson, and they always say Game 7 is the very best line in sports, and I guess Mitch agrees.
Tonight was do or die, and I think a lot of fans are going to be happy. They say that's the best line in sports, I believe, so we'll be prepared, take the next 40 hours or whatever it may be to try to get ready, get organized, and get ready to go into a hostile environment against the defending champs in the Western Conference Finals for a team that's done it multiple times and knows exactly what they're going to, what it takes. And I would expect to get their best punch. We're going to go in with our eyes wide open and expecting nothing less.
You won a Game 7 versus Denver versus Indiana. Is that sort of a positive that you can glean from this game, just knowing that you guys have bounced back from, a bad Game 6 before?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of experiences to this point, and the one thing that we've learned more than anything is, like, every game has a new life. Every game is earned, if you want to win it. Game 7 will be no different. This is obviously a quality opponent. We have to play obviously a lot better than we did tonight, and we understand that from a number of experiences. So, we'll get off our feet tomorrow. We'll get some rest and recovery, learn from the tape, take the lessons from tonight that are relevant for Game 7, and be ready to go out there and throw our best punch.
Simply put, Wemby had his big playoff moment coming through in the clutch and playing desperate. As he says, that's what they needed to pick up the win last night.
What does playing desperate look like to you? And when both teams, how does everyone's playing hard in playoffs?
It just feels like it erases kind of all the other mistakes that we built that are human nature. Others do in the regular season or previous games. Just got to fight that other type, and your back's against the wall. It feels like it's the best opportunity to do that.
Meanwhile, the Thunder have done a good job bouncing back after losses. That's what they'll need to do Saturday, says Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
When I hear you say that, I mean, you guys obviously went through the ringer with a couple Game 7s last year, but do you feel like these Spurs, that they're the toughest challenge you guys have faced as a group so far?
I don't know. They're up there for sure. Indiana and Denver were pretty tough. Taking us to Game 7, probably the common denominator with those groups. But yeah, they're a very tough team, really good team, especially this late in the season. You're going to play teams of this caliber. It's no surprise. And yeah, when you're on a playoff run, you run into teams that are very good, especially when you get this late. And however many games it takes.
So NBA previews coming this weekend here on SportsGrid. Now let's get to some results from Major League Baseball last night. Wouldn't you know, the Cubs are appearing to be back on track. They took care of business against Paul Skeens, 7-2 the final. Skeens did strike out 10 over 5 1/3, but he's lost his last 3 starts. Ian Happ was 3 for 5 with a home run, and Colin Ray did a good job pitching against Pittsburgh. Here is skipper Craig Counsell on getting the win against the Pirates.
Look, I think when you go up against Skeens, you got to be good, and I think Colin did a really nice job tonight, and gave us a shot, and we kind of had a weird offensive day, but against Skeens, but we did enough, right, and just put some pressure on. It was really difficult to see for the hitters in the first couple innings. That bright background, and it was very challenging. The vision was just very challenging, but we did enough, and it wasn't necessarily pretty. But you got bullpen up in the 6th inning, and we made some good things happen.
Meanwhile, on the other side of Chicago, the Cubs beat the Twins 6-2. They were home favorites and win relatively easily because Davis Martin is having an incredible season, heading toward maybe an all-star game. 6 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts. He's now tied with Chris Sale for the second most wins in Major League Baseball with 8. Randall Grichuk also drove in 3 runs. Here's Grichuk after the game saying the White Sox are coming through with a bunch of different guys.
There's a different player just stepping up in a big moment. How much of that goes into just the communication and the preparation within the clubhouse?
Well, that's huge. I mean, it's one of those things where, you don't have to be the guy every night. Every night, like you said, it's somebody different. We have a few guys that can drive the ball out of the ballpark, but we also have some guys that can scrap out at bats, steal some bags, and drive in guys. So, we win in different facets, and it's been awesome to be a part of.
Braves win the series against the Red Sox. Ronald Acuna Jr. hits a grand slam, 10-2 the final. And Ozzie Albies also had a home run in this one. And we mentioned Chris Sale picked up another win. 5 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts. And here is Walt Weiss after. They lost yesterday and win today. That's what the Braves are about.
I've said all year after a clunker, you guys answer back. I mean, how impressive is it to continue to do that?
Yeah, it's a good win. Tough place to win a series. And, Chris really fought for 5 innings. A lot of foul balls, a lot of deep counts. Didn't look like he had his best slider today, but he's still as good as anybody without his best stuff. So I thought he did a great job fighting for 5 innings. And Ronnie it's good to see Ronnie get that big hit. We get him rolling. I mean, it's a game changer.
The Battle of Texas in the American League. This round goes to the Houston Astros, winning the 4-game series in Arlington against the Rangers. 5-1 the final. Spencer Arrighetti won again. He's been great this season for Houston. 6 innings pitched and 3 strikeouts. Also, the Blue Jays beat the Orioles in their series opener 2-1. Patrick Corbin, 5 innings pitched, 4 strikeouts as the Blue Jays were on top yesterday. Now, in the Stanley Cup playoff chase, we're headed toward the finals, but there could be one game left, and that one may be tonight. 8:15 Eastern, Carolina takes on the Montreal Canadiens, and look at the line tonight. The Hurricanes minus 240 on the money line against the Habs, so they certainly will need a Herculean effort to come through here. Total of 5.5. The winner will play the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Stanley Cup finals begin next week. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, we'll be joined by Carlin Gay, courtesy of Sporting News, as he has the very latest in the NBA. Then we talk some baseball. Coming up a little bit in the show with Justin Perry, and Sam McQuillan joins us courtesy of Legal Sports Report. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Stay with us here. Our Friday edition is off and running, and we'll be back talking about Wemby and the Spurs. Can they beat OKC on the road and win a Game 7? Carlin Gay will tell us next. So we do have a Game 7 in the NBA Finals, and Carlin Gay is here with us to break it all down. Spurs and Thunder are headed toward a series that will determine who plays the Knicks for the NBA championship. Carlin's with us from Sporting News. So 118-91 last night. Spurs win. They win easy. A lot of backing I saw for OKC last night, but I got to tell you, second quarter, third quarter, you just had to feel really awful if you backed OKC. You knew it just wasn't happening. They only put up a 91 spot on the Spurs. So let's rewind to this game, Carlin, real quick. What did you see last night, and do you think that there's literally anything to take away from this game that leads you to believe that we could be headed toward a similar result in Game 7, which no one seems to believe?
Yeah, I took away a couple things. One was, all the games that the Spurs have won in this series, Victor Wembanyama has come out and he's made it a point to be like, I'm going to be the best player on the floor today. No one's stopping me on both ends, and I'm going to be disruptive. And most of the 3 wins that they've had so far, he's really dominated that first half. And last night was no different, right? Like he had a great, stat line for the entire game, the 28 points, multiple rebounds, the 3 blocks, etc. He probably had more blocks than that, or at least altered some shots at the rim more than those 3 blocks, but he was impressive. And most of that happened in the first half. Second half, he kind of cruised, and the rest of the team took him there. It also helped that the Spurs did hit a lot of threes, right? Like that definitely helps too. But the one thing that stuck out to me outside of Victor kind of setting the tone was also the physicality from the Spurs. I think they picked up on something in that loss in Game 5 in San Antonio. We all know the picture of Victor Wembanyama now whispering in his teammates' ear as they're coming on, Plumlee and Biyombo coming onto the floor, whispering, "Hey, go knock someone out," basically. And and they did that to Jared McCain. They took that body check on him. Well, we saw a similar body check being thrown by the rookie Carter Bryant yesterday on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That didn't get upgraded. We saw Devin Vassell get in the face of Chet Holmgren. There was no technical foul. So it was like the Spurs kind of realized, like, okay, we can get to the line, and as long as we don't go over and play within, and if the refs are going to let us be physical, we can kind of stick with this team and let Victor do what he does. And I thought that in that moment, the Thunder didn't show enough fight. And I'm not asking them to go out and brawl, right? Like, that's not what I'm asking them to do. But I'm asking them to kind of shove back, whether it's putting the ball in the net or at least step up for your teammate. When Jared McCain got decked, no one walked up to anybody on the Spurs and said, "Hey, don't do that again, or is there going to be a problem?" Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got decked to the floor. No one said anything either. They kind of just thought, "Oh, review it." That's not the response you need to have. You need to take matters into your own hands and not let the refs do that. And, the Thunder get a lot of credit for their poise and keeping that poker face. But I thought last night, especially, the way that the Spurs were kind of hitting them physically and they didn't fight back and kind of challenging them in that moment, getting to their heads a little bit, I thought that showed up in the way they played in the second half, because the Spurs kind of took over that game. And the Thunder said, "You know what? I'm going to let go of the rope and hope for a better result in Game 7. And if you quit once, Craig, as you know, you could probably quit there."
Should be a fun one here. And Thunder are 3.5-point favorites, total of 212.5. And so, Carlin, you've now seen 6 games. You've also seen the regular season that the Spurs were the only team in the NBA to give the Thunder a battle basically consistently. Which way are you going to go? Game 7.
Game 7, and normally we say, these Game 7s are close. There's going to be tight, and, there's going to be low scoring. My gut still tells me that the Thunder are the better team. They're going to be at home. I expect them to win. Now, if you are going to agree with me in that side of things, I think you can level up a little bit and not only just take the Thunder on the money line. You could probably take them on the spread as well, and you could probably take them in the first half, because what we've seen in this series thus far is whoever basically wins the first half wins the game. Like, that just normally happens in this series so far, the way that's played out through 6 games. The other thing is that third quarter has been so important to both those teams. The winner of the game normally plays well in the third quarter. So if you want to take a third quarter bet, that's probably something that you can do as well. So if you're disagreeing with me, I would take the opposite on everything that I just said right there. But I think the Thunder are going to win this game. I'm not only just going to take them on the money line, but I would take them on a spread as well, and first half, being ahead in the first half as well, to just kind of give me some level of value, because you're not going to get much just on the money line.
I mean, you could get a little bit more on the money line just by taking SGA instead of the Thunder, because the Thunder are minus about 150 in the game. But to win the MVP, Carlin, SGA is minus 135. So if you believe that the Thunder are going to win, I would assume that SGA is the MVP of the Western Conference Finals. Wemby is plus 130. I mean, there's no one really else out there on either team that has a shot here. So that's another, at least, way to look at it if you like the Thunder here, unless you really think that Alex Caruso has any legit shot, which I do not.
Yeah, what we're doing right now, we're building failure for whoever's going to, have a 5-6 leg parlay right now and salivating over the weekend for their winnings, because we're just adding things on that you're going to talk yourself into, and the sport books are saying, like, Craig, Carlin, go ahead, keep telling them to add legs to that parlay. That's what we like to see. But you're right. If the Thunder are going to win, I can't see anyone other than SGA winning MVP. Has he played to his standard? Probably not. But guess what? His standard is a level above everyone else's, right? Like the what he's doing right now is probably a great series for any bench player. And you have to consider the fact that Chet Holmgren hasn't played, to his level. Jalen Williams, who's the second best player on the team, has been in and out of the lineup. He gave him really nothing last night, and I don't know what he can give him tomorrow night. So SGA has to be SGA. But him being SGA just means he scores 30 points and maybe dishes out 10 assists, and that's a pretty good stat line and maybe a ho-hum night for him, in his opinion.
Let's take a look real quick at the props, if we could, as far as their totals are. SGA 29.5, Wemby 27.5. Rebounds, of course, Wemby is going to get a much bigger number here, 12.5 there. And then, on the flip side, the assists will go to SGA. And then points, rebounds, and assists, very close for both, Carlin. 41.5 versus 42.5. Is there any of those numbers that stick out to you?
Yeah. The assists, so 7.5 for SGA. I'm going to give you the stat. Last night, he threw 39 total passes for the entire basketball game. For someone that has the ball in his hands as much as he has the ball in his hands, 39 passes to me just isn't enough. That means he's not moving the ball quickly enough. And those 39 passes don't necessarily mean that they're going to be led to assists. Like, those could just be giving it to someone else to carry it up the floor. So, that's a low number for SGA. He's been around that for the entire series. So I would say under on his assist total tomorrow night.
Carlin's going to stick around with us here. We'll talk some more NBA when we come back next. There's some new tanking rules potentially coming too. We'll get into all that and more here on NewsWire on SportsGrid. So stay with us. We'll be back right after this. Carlin is back with us, so let's close out our discussion here on the Western Conference and a little bit on what the finals could look like, and then we'll move on to the other hot topics in the NBA. So, Carlin, this is plus money still for OKC, very light plus money to win the NBA title because they got to get through San Antonio for Game 7. And so I guess the question is, and, you know, we'll get to it, obviously, but if you do believe that the Thunder can win the championship or will win the championship, the next 24, 30 hours is your last shot to get plus money. I mean, this is it, if you think that's the case.
Yeah, and I still do. I'm still shocked that the Knicks are at plus 210 even right now. Not only by the way they played, but the fact that they have so many fans that I thought that number would come down by now. They kind of it is crazy that we've seen this team play as well as they have, and I know that they're not playing teams at the caliber of the San Antonio Spurs or the caliber of even the Minnesota Timberwolves, that are in the Western Conference, but. You play who's in front of you, and the Knicks did that, but they didn't just beat them. Like, they dominated these teams. Back-to-back sweeps. We saw what they did to Atlanta in the last 3 games. It's an 11-game winning streak. It's a historic proportion. So, going into that Game 1, I think if you're a Knicks fan, you should feel pretty good regardless if it's the Spurs or the Thunder, because not only is this now a 7-game series, but it's been pretty physical for both sides, and you've been able to have a week off and heal your body. And as you know, Craig, saw last year, it's attrition, right? It's a war of attrition. The Pacers might be champions if not for their best player going down,
True.
At the worst possible time. So, we don't have Jalen Williams fully healthy. If the Thunder are able to get past the Spurs, we know that De'Aaron Fox has been banged up a little bit with that ankle injury on the Spurs side. If they're able to get past the Thunder, so no one's coming in fully healthy, but the Knicks are coming in healthy and they're playing good basketball. I know Mitchell Robinson broke his pinky finger, but he's a bad free throw shooter anyway, so that wouldn't have changed anything at the line for him. So I think he'll still be able to kind of perform at his level when push comes to shove. So if I had, I would put money on the Knicks right now, even if you have a slight hope that they are going to win the NBA Finals, because that is to me, ridiculous that they are, even plus 200. That's good money, right? And they're playing great basketball, and they'll have a lot of momentum heading into these finals.
Yeah, and you see their number against OKC, it's plus 215, and I think that if regardless of who wins, I'm going to guess that the Knicks are going to move down in these hypotheticals no matter what, because once it happens, that makes the picture clearer. It's just that at this point, as you see, if OKC wins, it's minus 265. Now let's flip over to the Spurs. They're minus 225, and the Knicks are plus 165. But I got to tell you, if the Spurs win, the only reason why, Carlin, they're minus 225 and not minus 180 or something like that is because we just don't know right now if they're going to be in the finals. So that's the reason why these lines aren't tighter, but they're going to get tighter regardless of who wins.
Yeah, and the fact that, again, anytime you can get some money on a team that's really playing really hot, and remember, the Knicks are going to be on the road for the first 2, so they already have that mentality of, like, we're going on the road, where you don't have to change anything. If they steal one of these 2 games and go back home, we know what New York might burn down. Like, I think there needs to be some sort of market on whether or not New York will survive a Knicks championship, because I would lay the juice on whatever odds I'm going to get on it's going to burn down.
So the NBA lottery is going to change, and it would appear, Carlin, that if you have one of the worst 3 records in the NBA, it doesn't guarantee that you have the most ping pong balls moving forward. That was my biggest takeaway of all of it. Was that yours as well, or was there something more to it? It just seems like something had to be done to stop teams from basically not playing players in that second half. Like, some of the stuff Utah was doing was just crazy.
Yeah, and it's a dramatic change, right? Like, you go from, the current lottery system, if you're in the bottom 3, you have a 14% chance of getting that number 1 pick. Now you go down to a 5.4% chance of getting that top slot. So being one of the worst teams in the NBA isn't beneficial anymore, because teams 21 through 27 actually have a better chance of getting the number 1 pick in this new system. It's an 8.1% chance of landing that top spot. So, hopefully this does curve tanking. I don't think it will completely eliminate it, because you're always going to have drafts like this one where there's generational talents there, and people are going to say, hey, it is better for me to lose so I could win later than to win these games and kind of stay in this stagnant and no man's land. That's the worst place to be in the NBA. There are a lot of teams you ask around the league right now, Craig, who are in that no man's land that wishes they can get a number number 1 overall pick in a draft like this. So, 2027, I don't think we'll feel the impact of it because that draft isn't expected to be as good as this one. It's going to be a little while before we get something that's generational like this draft. So, not only is the tanking going to change, but trades are also going to change going forward in the NBA, and that's the interesting part to me.
Yeah, definitely so. All right, Carlin, great to catch up with you. We'll see you before the finals begin next week. Thanks for coming on.
Have a good weekend.
Sam McQuillan up next.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go. 10,000 horsepower roars off the dock.
Oh my, there's a problem.
On the outside, side by side. And he's lost control of the book. Hopes and dreams of winning here. Yes!
Get ready for round 1, the Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
Always great to catch up with Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report here on this Friday with the latest in sports betting, and today even some casino stories as well. Great to have you here, Sam, as we head toward the weekend. Let's start off with Caesars, a pretty monumental sale number here I'm seeing. Is this right? $17.6 billion. Who is buying this, and what is sort of the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, it's a huge number, $17 billion, $6 billion, which Rockets owner and U.S. ambassador to Italy, Tillman Fertitta, is going to pay out of his own pocket for this deal, and then an extra $12 billion, which is taking on the massive amount of debt that Caesars has currently. It's obviously a huge deal. Caesars is a gigantic name, not just in the sports betting space, but in the hospitality space. Really, in any space you talk about, it's a gigantic global company with a lot of brands and a lot of weight behind it. This would seemingly bring those and everything that Caesars owns into the same umbrella that Tillman Fertitta owns with his Golden Nugget casinos, as well as a number of other restaurants and hospitality groups. So that's really the interesting thing we're looking at here is combining these two sports betting brands together and gambling brands together. What does that mean kind of for the future of the industry? Caesars has online sports betting in about 25 states, but it's talked about lately spinning off its online sports betting brand into kind of a separate entity from the company, something that you saw MGM do with BetMGM, which is technically not part of the company anymore, although the company owns about half of it. So interesting that Caesars actually did not go through with that and sold the entire thing to Fertitta. Caesars has about number 5, number 4 spot nationally when it comes to all of their sports books, behind FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, sometimes Bet365 in some cases. So it might have to sell a bunch of its casinos as part of this deal. It's not really clear yet exactly what happens. There's instances where, Fertitta would now own about 3 of the total casinos in Atlantic City, for example. So some regions have rules which, mean you don't want someone to own too many of all the casinos in one place. So we'll see what more kind of details we get out of that department. Another interesting wrinkle as well is when New Jersey first passed online sports betting and Fertitta owned the Golden Nugget Casino in the state, there was a lot of concern about the owner of an NBA team owning a sports book that takes bets on that team, right? So as part of that deal, Golden Nugget has not taken bets on any games involving the Houston Rockets for years now. Golden Nugget obviously isn't one of those big names in the online sports betting space, but Caesars is. And if Fertitta now owns Caesars, the question is, does that same rule apply to him? But I think bigger question kind of here, Craig, is does that even matter? Does anybody really even care about that? Because at this point, you have presidents involved in their own sports books. You have players on teams involved in their own sports books. So the can has kind of just been open, it's been a whole chaotic kind of, crazy venture with all these people's involvement into different sports betting brands. So I wonder if people even care about that these days, like they did back in 2019, 2020, when New Jersey was legalized.
Yeah, no, I think a fair point. By the way, read this story over at LegalSportsReport.com, including our next story here, which was a major boost here, it would appear, Sam, for prediction markets, with the president essentially backing the idea that the CFTC should have exclusive control over what or what does not happen. Certainly that would bode well for prediction markets over the next couple of years, I suspect, but you tell me, is that what that means, or is this just simply words? We have to get to the bottom of it, because as we know, regardless of what anybody says, it does appear to be more of a state by state issue for whether these prediction markets are allowed to operate or not.
Yeah, regardless of what anyone says, Craig, it's going to be an issue that is not solved immediately. You have 20-something odd states suing prediction markets, saying they're offering unlicensed sports betting. You have the CFTC, which says, no, actually, we're the ones who regulate this. You guys have no power over this, suing those states. So a lot of people really think this is all going to be kind of decided, like you mentioned, on a state-by-state basis, and then eventually probably by the Supreme Court. Who knows how long that will take? Who knows what the world will look like then? Who knows who will be in power? But right now, President Donald Trump is pushing more support in prediction markets way, kind of while this all plays out. So it is significant that the president is making more comments in favor of prediction markets. He took to Truth Social publicly, kind of, saying that the CFTC is the one that should regulate all of these things, and it's really critically important that it does and that it thrives. He also called out a number of politicians and elected officials who have, been behind various attempts to restrict prediction markets. He called out Minnesota Governor Tim Walz by name. Minnesota just signed a law in Minnesota that restricts the use of prediction markets in the state largely, not all prediction markets, but most, which obviously the CFTC is now suing to stop. He called out New York Attorney General Letitia James, who's actively suing several prediction market companies, as well as former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who has aligned himself with the American Gaming Association and been a very staunch critic of prediction markets, which he sees as kind of, taking away business from casinos illegally. And then last but not least, Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, who signed an executive order about a month ago to prevent state employees from using non-public information to profit from prediction markets. So this is the furthest Trump has gone publicly supporting prediction markets and kind of, saying that this is supposed to be regulated by the CFTC. So certainly for companies like Kalshi and Polymarket, they're happy to hear that. Trump obviously does have a huge investment in the venture himself. Truth Social runs its own prediction market business via a partnership with Coinbase. It had planned to launch its own fully owned and operational prediction market, but has reportedly walked back those plans. And then, of course, the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., is a special advisor to both Kalshi and Polymarket. And now about 87% of all activity on Kalshi is sports, which only started right after the president took office. And the activity on the platform in general has gone up about 1,000% since he took office, again, largely on the back of sports. The Post, I would say, there's no coincidence. It comes at a time when scrutiny is at an all-time high in the sector. The New York Times just published an investigation on how crypto and prediction market industries have gained influence within the Trump administration. So there's definitely a lot of spotlight over the sector right now. But anytime you have the president more on your side on one of these controversial issues, it's definitely something that companies like Kalshi and Polymarket are happy happened.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, so Sam, we have a very big tick up in terms of people who bet on sports when the Super Bowl comes around. Same thing could be said for March Madness. And for the first time in several years, we've got another event coming here, and that, of course, is the World Cup, which I would anticipate will be the most bet World Cup of all time. But naturally, this could lead to more people signing up for the first time as well. Tell us more.
Yeah, experts are projecting around $4 billion in handle for the World Cup, which is going to happen this summer, notably in North America for the first time in a very, very long time, which would be about 3 times the amount that was bet on the 2022 World Cup. So it's a huge increase from then, roughly a little more than how much is bet on a Super Bowl every year. A lot of that really depends on how far the U.S. men's national team goes. Kind of the best case scenario is that they are eliminated in the round of 32 or 16. Don't go too far that they cash everyone's long shot bets, but go far enough that they keep drawing more handle on every game. But like you alluded to, Craig, this is really going to be all about customer acquisition, especially when you have people watching and betting on the World Cup now in American time zone. That's obviously a big difference as well. To be watching these games live should attract a lot more activity. And then obviously these brands want to convert all these people into long-term sports bettors, long-term online casino players. So it's not just about how much money they make on the World Cup, but obviously that'll be a big boon as well.
Sam, have a great weekend. We'll catch up next week. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Greg. You too.
Big slate of baseball games coming up this weekend. Justin Perry's going to join us to preview them. We're continuing on here with NewsWire right after this. Don't go away.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all 4.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
We have the final weekend of baseball in May in Major League Baseball. Let's get to it as Justin Perry is with us to take a look at some of the matchups. As time permitting, we can get into them tonight. Justin, great to have you back here on NewsWire. Let's get started with looking at one of the best teams in baseball right now, the Atlanta Braves. They just continue to roll, and they take on the Cincinnati Reds this evening. Let's start here. It's Holmes versus Chris Paddack. Holmes has been okay this season. Paddack naturally started the season off with Miami. He's now moved on to Cincinnati. The results have been more or less the same. As you see, there's a high total of 9.5. Generally speaking, in Cincinnati, sometimes you can get those high run totals. But, man, Braves are just playing good baseball right now. Does that continue tonight?
I think it does. I mean, this team's hot. We saw Acuna go for the grand slam last night. It feels like Atlanta missed a couple years and is finally back to where they want. Of course, just maybe missing the ace in Strider. But I think the offense on both sides of this matchup are what you want to look at because, you mentioned Chris Paddack. I'm not really super excited about his velocity coming in against Atlanta. But even on the other side, sorry, wait, I just messed that up. It's Paddack is playing Atlanta. And, yeah, his velocity hasn't been great. Playing at home, I'm a little concerned that he's going to not be able to keep it in a pretty small ballpark there at Great American. So I like that first 5 team total. I look at Grant Holmes also. He might get those Ks. Maybe he can get out of a jam, but he might give up 2 to 3 runs himself. I think we're going to see a high run total. I like the over in the full game and the first half.
All right, Blue Jays and Orioles. You would have thought that this would have been a heck of a showdown here in terms of pitching because Trevor Rogers was the Orioles ace going into the season, but he has been nothing of the ace for Baltimore. In fact, most of their pitching hasn't done well. But the Orioles, at least for the first time all year, feeling pretty good about themselves. Good series against Tampa Bay. It's about a pick'em game, it looks like here today. Minus 116 on the side of Baltimore. That's like nothing. Toronto minus 102 total. 8.5. Guerrero did return to the Blue Jays lineup earlier this week as well. Blue Jays, Orioles tonight. Any opinion on this one?
I'm not a big fan of Austin Voth going for the Blue Jays, so I would look to go against him if you want the money line on Baltimore. I think they likely do continue to stay in a good groove. I haven't been super excited by Toronto's lineup this year. A lot of maybe missing power from guys like Vladdy, guys like Dalton Varsho haven't exactly had the pop that we expect from them. And of course, it's still May. I mean, it's about to be June, but it's still May. I think you can go ahead and trust them to maybe stay a little cool. Trust that Baltimore's maybe turning that corner a little bit. I'm not super excited about what we've seen from Trevor Rogers either, though. I mean, that last outing was all but terrible. The stuff looked bad. The results looked bad. There was not much to sort of save the day there. So I think my favorite play here is going back to the first 5 over. I think I have 3 of those today. So going back to the first 5 over on this one, trusting the offenses to take apart some of these pitchers. I mean, Voth was not really a guy who gets a lot of whiffs last time he pitched, and I don't think that'll really change. So this should be a good opportunity to maybe get a discount on a high-scoring game here as well.
All right, let's go to the American League Central, where opposite fortunes, without a doubt, this season. You would have thought that the Tigers would have been the team that's 29-27, and the White Sox would have been 22-35, but it's been opposite season in that division. Right now, the White Sox are playing better baseball, and Detroit is on the verge of being a seller at the trade deadline. Troy Melton will start for Detroit. He made his debut and pitched very well in his first time out. The White Sox have Eric Fetty, and unfortunately for him, he's been their worst starting pitcher this season, 0-5 with an ERA of 5.5. So, look, naturally, White Sox offense, this is what's kept them alive, and their starting pitching has been good enough. But when Murakami gets hot, it seems like there's no stopping him. White Sox, Tigers tonight.
Yeah, Troy Melton. It's an interesting arm there. I'm not super excited about it, but I do think that he should be able to maybe keep this one kind of close. I mean, Fetty is just someone I'm not touching with a 10-foot pole. So I think that's really my mentality here, is just trusting what I've seen. Fetty, I think, had a hot run, honestly. Like, he was doing pretty well. I think all the underlying metrics showed that it wasn't going to continue. Lo and behold, he gives up 8 in his most recent start. I think that's the pitcher you can expect. Maybe even still the market not jumping that fast to it. I took the Tigers on the first 5 money line. I just, I'm not touching Fetty.
Brewers take on the Astros tonight, at least for the time being. Astros seemingly playing better ball. They have an opener tonight in Tang. He will start. Milwaukee also needed to add a starter, and so they've called up Crow. He will start this evening. You could see it's kind of a pick'em game. Houston has been led by Yordan Alvarez, who no pitcher has been able to stop this season. But beyond that, when he doesn't homer, it just appears, Justin, that the Astros don't win. So tonight, Brewers at the Astros. Who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, it was Walker earlier in the season. Now it's Alvarez. I think he has a three-game home run streak. He's absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. One of the best, if not the best, lefty hitter in the game. Look, I think this is another spot, though. I look at Tang. He's had 2 electric results, but I don't think the pitches underneath it have been worthwhile of it. He's throwing the sweeper at a 40% clip. It's a disgustingly good pitch, really fun to watch, but everything else just leaves a lot to be desired. And I think, you get to that second, that third start, teams start to pick up on it. They know what they're about to see today. And then on the other side, there's a lot of regression sort of looming as well there. I think you can see a lot of runs, especially for a team like Houston. Like you said, 1 home run, 3 runs, I think is pretty plausible for this Astros team right now. But I like the Brewers side specifically to run it up. So if you have like those team totals in the first 5, I think that's my favorite play with the Brewers to go against Tang. But I took the first 5 over just to get all of that value soaked into one play there and expect some runs today in this one.
All right, real quick, one more game, and then we'll show some picks here. Diamondbacks, hottest team in the National League. They're in Seattle tonight. Kirby's on the bump, minus 152. Does Arizona keep the hot streak going, or does Seattle put that to an end this weekend?
I think they're going to put it to an end a little bit. It's a much tougher place to play, especially coming from the desert. Kirby hasn't exactly been great, but I mean, Zach Gallen has left so much to be desired here. I think you'd pay the price, take the Mariners, or maybe even take a run line here and try to see if they win by multiple runs. But it's tough to do that in Seattle. So I think my favorite play would be the money line.
All right, so Justin gave it out. 3 first 5 overs: Braves, Reds, Blue Jays, Orioles, and Brewers, Astros, and also the Tigers first 5 money line. Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Hey, anytime, Craig. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap it up. Don't go away.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all 4.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're still a couple of months away from training camp in the National Football League, but what they have going on right now are OTAs, organized team activities. So there is some media availability for some teams, and in particular, maybe a competition going on in Minnesota where Kyler Murray is now a member of the Vikings. And of course, J.J. McCarthy was the starting quarterback for the Vikings for a period of time last season. They ended up both speaking to the media about what their roles are like and being in the same quarterback room, and both gave very different answers.
How would you describe your relationship with J.J. to this point?
It's been great. It's been great. Obviously, I know he's a younger guy, so any way I can help him, obviously, I feel like, I've played 7 years now, going on 8. So I'm considered a veteran, even though I don't see myself as that. Give him any knowledge that he needs. Again, we're both competitors, and I know, we both want what's best for the team.
Has he been receptive to hearing criticism?
Of course. Yeah, he's overly acceptive, and he's always communicating, asking questions, stuff like that. So it's been good.
JJ, what's your relationship been like with Kyler so far?
It's just like two guys in a classroom. He sits on one side, I sit on the other side, and it's the coach's responsibility to teach us and coach us. So,
is there any awkwardness between you two?
Awkwardness, it's just like the same feeling, when you're in high school and there's another person on the other side of the room. That's just kind of how it is. So I wouldn't say there's any awkwardness.
All right, little bizarre that two guys in the same room give two different answers. We could have ourselves a little quarterback controversy going into training camp and in the preseason. All right, we'll wrap it up with the Southeastern Conference taking some extra measures in sports wagering. That and a whole lot more. Time now to wrap it up with some last licks. The Southeastern Conference has decided to introduce a new custom-designed mandatory sports gambling education video that's going to have to be viewed by every single Southeastern Conference student-athlete prior to the start of their first game in the 2026-27 athletic year. How about that? Greg Sankey, the commissioner, saying that they're committed to supporting its member institutions and student athletes through proactive education, monitoring, and resources that promote integrity and protect the student athletes. So the SEC setting the bar for education. It may not work, and this may only be a deterrent, but this is absolutely something that I think you're going to see from the Big Ten, from the ACC, and everywhere else. And by the way, here's the biggest question of all. Where has this been the last few years? Why did it take several years for conferences to make their student athletes understand what it is to be betting on sports when you are a student athlete, which is prohibited? So stay tuned, but definitely a good job by the SEC. Baltimore Orioles making an announcement. They'll have a special concession item for Star Wars weekend at Camden Yards this weekend. Dueling lightsaber hot dogs that have Burke's beef hot dogs with Kyber crystals. That's from Star Wars. I know that. Isn't the Kyber crystals? That's from the newer ones. Taki's Kyber crystals. How about from the Mandalorian, Grogu's fresh catch of the day? Frog legs, including fried frog legs seasoned with lemon, garlic, and parsley, and served with garlic parmesan fries, and a spice bag chicken. I don't know what's up with that one. Fried chicken, fries, chili peppers, bell peppers, and onions covered in curry sauce and served in a bag. $19.99. And this isn't even really true Star Wars. I mean, The Mandalorian and Grogu is kind of a Star Wars story, but it doesn't really fall in line with all those other ones. But I guess since the movie's out, it does make some sense there. Okay, now how about this one with the World Cup getting ready to start? You won't believe this. There's a man in my home state, I'm embarrassed to say, that is attempting to drive a giant pear. That's right. It's a vehicle that is a giant pear all the way across the country from Florida to Washington. Why Washington, by the way? Why not New York? For the World Cup. And he is going to take this pear-shaped vehicle, which you can see right there, and try to make it all the way to Seattle. Has anybody stopped to think what could happen if he doesn't make it? Does he get a apple going or an orange vehicle going? I have no idea. And why did he choose a pear of all things? Very bizarre story, but it just shows you the passion that the people have for the World Cup, and we're going to see it in this country, here in the United States for the first time, coming up in a couple of weeks. Can't wait to have our coverage start here for the World Cup as well. All right, that'll do it for our week of shows, folks, and that'll do it for me here today on this edition of NewsWire. Want to thank Justin Perry for coming on the show, and also Carlin Gay from Sporting News, and of course, thanks to Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report as well. In addition, you can catch me Sunday morning on our Pro Baseball Today show with Donnie Rightside. Just download the SportsGrid app and you can learn when the programs are airing every single day here on SportsGrid. Thanks again, of course, to Tommy, and thanks to Frank, and for our producer Chris, I'm Craig Mish. I'll see you back Monday for our next edition of NewsWire, 12 o'clock Eastern. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.